to find some, you need to find some collaborative planning tools that help people work virtually. We've all learned that, but also find different ways to collaborate and identify stakeholders and common goals. And then as everyone on the call knows, our number one objective as the council is to accelerate projects, is to help cities, counties, states, local government find ways to accelerate their projects so they can deliver benefits to their communities in a more rapid fashion. I am going to turn this over now to Kevin McCaffrey, who is the CEO of Trident, who is the company that has built this platform for us. Their version of it is called Transformation Accelerator, and then they've white labeled it for us, and ours is called Smart Cities Activator. Kevin's going to give a quick overview of what the platform does, and then what I'm going to do is go into our actual project module and show you some of what I would ask people to do before next week's workshop. It's not obligatory, obviously, but you'll see that already some, Cyrodiil, for instance, have been on top of this, as have Morrisville. And you'll see that there's just opportunities for you to share information before the workshop, because we really don't want to be in a workshop where we spend half the day getting to know each other. And, you know, everybody goes through their obligatory 20 slides. We're just not going to do that. So this is an opportunity for people to put some information into the project planning tool that will allow others to understand why you're in the room, either because you're providing a solution or you're one of the community leaders that is looking for it to meet a specific need, and that'll accelerate the work we do. So Kevin, I'm going to stop sharing. You can take it and get started.
Thanks, Philip. Let me just find the button.
And so everybody knows Kevin is in Galway, Ireland, and we pulled him from the pub.
The important things in life. Let me just make this a bit bigger here. Hold on. You should be seeing my deck now there, yeah?
Yes.
Thanks, Philip. Yeah, my name's Kevin McCaffrey. I'm CEO of Trident. We've developed our platform, as Philip said, as Transformation Accelerator. Philip has asked me to spend maybe 10-15 minutes giving you a whirlwind tour about what we do, and actually to focus in on an example of how our tool has been used in a different sector, actually in the telecom sector, for collaboration between different groups of people for a range of different projects. So I'll kind of quickly go through some slides, and then I'll actually want to jump into the tool and actually show you some examples of how the product had been used in a collaborative way on a couple of examples that I think are relevant. One of the things that we find is that across all organizations, there's a lot of change going on, but the challenge is sometimes is how to do that, and at that early stage, getting that strategy right and understanding, you know, what's happening and who needs to do what, and this concept of ecosystems becomes really, really important in terms of delivering success. And that could be anything for, you know, elements related to mobility, to internal focus, or that. And what we're finding is kind of through our platform, it's enabling transformation leaders to build the strategies. And one of the important things, and Philip will touch on this when he's going through the product, is the concept of structured collaboration. You know, it's great being able to put up a bunch of little stickies everywhere, but you want to be able to understand the structure and understand how this kind of comes together and to co-create plans. Now, what we'll see when we get into the product is actually an end result of what people have done, but you'll see there's a kind of an iterative process that they will go through to achieve it. Now, a lot of times when we're talking to organizations and we're saying, well, okay, guys, what are you doing at the moment? And typically they use whatever tools they've got in front of them to help in that kind of ideation or strategic planning phase. But probably the most kind of guaranteed thing is that everything ends up in PowerPoint or Word. And the problem with that is it's not very consumable, it's not very shareable. And also there's a range of best practices and standards that the Smart City Council have and other areas have that you want to pull in and utilize. And quite often these are disparate pieces of information. They're split all over the place, and you want to be able to pull them in more effectively. So really through our platform, which, you know, our base platform is called Transformation Accelerator, but The same thing is true with regards to the Smart City Activator, is being able to have the single view of the truth that different people within and outside of the organizations can look at together to help define, design, and actually buy in and approve and create, you know, different outputs, whether it's at the high level from a strategic vision or right down to things like, you know, process modeling or ecosystem modeling. And how we do that is by able to have a range of elements or tools or canvases that actually are interrelated, that enable you to provide standard features and capabilities that you need as part of that overall strategic planning. And those could be in areas of business modeling. It could be around, you know, understanding, you know, how data is going to be managed, the relationships between there. So, you know, the area of data catalogs and being able to assess things is really important. And one of the things we've developed is the ability to be able to, you know, create assessments based on maturity levels, based on data governance and that. And, you know, what's really kind of caught people's attention, such as Gardner, is they're very interested in how our tool is being used, both in terms of strategy and innovation, but also in terms of business ecosystem modeling. And they've included our platform in quite a number of their publications. And talking to Gardner last week, they kind of felt, well, it's great, you know, using your tool helps bring the standards and best practices to life. So it takes that theory and brings it into reality. Now, one of the areas that we work on is in the telecom sector. And what we've done is with our partner, which is an organization called the Telemanagement Forum, which is a global kind of standards association. We've created a collaboration community for them where their organizations and companies can work together on specific case studies or specific, you know, best practices that they want to build. But quite often you're going to get 6 or 7 different companies together working on, you know, how they can use 5G to help improve mobility in a city, or it could be around blockchain, it could be about digital twins. And working all together, they needed a single platform that would help them in that collaboration. And what we're going to do is actually have a look at a couple of examples.
And for many of you, just Kevin, quickly, for many of you, the reason why we have a partnership with Trident is because our goal is to do the same thing in the public sector, is to be able to give public sector participants these same opportunities. So everything you see happening in the telecom industry can happen in the public sector and will happen in this data sharing for mobility project with cooperation. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, sure thing, Phil. And one of the other things that we're finding as well, and more recently, is as organizations are starting to work in it, one of the things they want to look at is they want to say, well, where are we and where do we want to go? So it's really kind of tend to be a focus in terms of digital maturity. And that could be at a data level, it could be at a smart city level. So one of the aspects within our platform is the ability to kind of do these assessments and be able to use that as a way of moving forward. But also, it can help you understand what's required either from a data governance, you know, from a cybersecurity or whatever else, to understand where you are relative to a standard that's out there. So what I want to do is kind of come out of PowerPoint, and I'm going to go into into the product, and I'm going to go into our collaboration space for the telecom sector. And one of the things, just jumping back to that slide for a second, that's important is that when these organizations work together, they do so under kind of a rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement state that when you're working together on that, it's shared IP. We're working together, we can share these case studies with other people and we can leverage them. So that means when these organizations would work together, that the output is then made available for everybody to benefit of. So that's why we're able to actually go and show you some of these examples, which I'll go through now.
And Kevin, if I could add, for those of you that are either Readiness Challenge winners or partners of the council, you can get private workspaces. So if you're concerned about, private, data confidentiality, you can get private workspaces. There is a common platform for those of us participating in the readiness program. but as a partner or winning city, you can get a private workspace. Go ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, so no, that's a good point. So we have a collaboration workspace that these guys work together, but also, for example, you know, we'd be working with our clients such as Salesforce or other people. They have their own private workspace that they work in themselves, and the data is secure. We're ISO 27001 certified. So for, you know, we take data security and cybersecurity very, very seriously. So what I want to do is, and I'm just conscious of time, I'm going to jump over into CurateFX, which is our Telecom branded version of our product. So basically, it's a SaaS product, which means it's available through your browser. You don't have to install anything. Your IT department don't have to install anything. It's all available to a secure connection via the browser. Now, what I wanted to do was kind of go through one of these projects, and I'm going to select one of these here, which is just actually about mobility as well. But this particular project it's quite technical in nature, but the idea behind it was to actually look at how you could provide mobility capability, smart mobility for toll road operators, for cities and that. So within the concept of our product, you've got this project. I'll just make it a bit bigger. And within that, you've got different kind of content. And this is pretty much your table of contents. So this within here, what these guys did is they said, well, before we get into the how, before we figure out how we're going to provide this autonomous network for smart mobility, we need to figure out what's driving it. What is the problem? What is our overall, how are we going to measure success? And then work their way through that. They also identified a range of key stakeholders within this project. So that could be anything from the smart city to vehicle owners to toll road operators, to a whole range of different people. And the important thing within this idea is from a stakeholders is once you've created them, you're able to then assign them and use them throughout the actual project. So I'm not going to go into it all, but you can see, for example, these are in this little white card, which is called a module. It identifies, you know, what are the key drivers for, you know, traffic density. What type of drivers are they? And they were able to kind of upfront understand what are the key problems that they were trying to solve. And each of these little cards is what's referred to as a module. And it's very much like a structured PowerPoint slide that's defined with a specific purpose to capture specific information. But you'll also see that it talks about the stakeholders that are assigned throughout this. And even if we went in and looked at one of these canvases, which is a mechanism for being able to capture information, and in this is called kind of quite often called a strategic success canvas. It actually gives you one view to show you, you know, who are going to be the beneficiaries, how are we going to measure success, what's the value proposition, and each of these you can add, you know, more and more information around it. But what I really wanted to kind of get into was moving down here a little bit, was looking at it from the overall ecosystem point of view, because when many services are being provided, it becomes important to understand the interactions between these different stakeholders and how this is done. And this is the end result by the team. They were able to kind of grab a particular stakeholder and throw it in there and start creating relationships between these items and understanding, is it a financial, what type of interactions are we going to have? And this could be related to anything about data sharing. It could be to do with financial or products and services. So within the platform, you've got the ability to be able to create that structure and understand it in a very effective way. The other important thing is, from each of these stakeholders' perspective, you're then able to view and look at how those stakeholders are related to the other elements within the project. So for example, if I open up, you know, a particular item, I can see for that particular value proposition, who are the stakeholders that are going to provide that to the city. So you've got all of this connected data, and it's in a digestible, visual way that people can understand and can relate to. Now, this is just one example of a project. there are others that we've got in here related to a range of other topics. But I'm just going to pause there because I know Philip is going to get into to more specifics that are going to be relevant for your workshop. So I'll just pause there, Philip, and just see if there was anything else you wanted me to look at.
No, I think this is fine. I mean, again, respecting everybody's time, what I'm going to do is when you're finished is dive into the actual project plan for Research Triangle and data sharing, and just show them a little bit about everybody that is participating here has been given access so they can go in and start working. So I think, I think these examples are really good. Plus, talking maybe a little bit more about the assessment module.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to release to us as of tomorrow.
Yeah. So like, you can look, what I find great about these projects and the way that these people, and in certain, for this particular project, I know there was about 9 different organizations working, about 40 people working on this across 6 or 7 different time zones. And they never actually met each other. They never did this in person. They were able to work together. So this is multiple people working on the same platform are able to update, and you can assign different people to say, you're going to work on use case 1 and somebody else is going to work on use case 2. And, this particular project was all around, electric vehicle charging and how to deal with business continuity in the event of bad weather or an extreme weather condition, and how they would work that. And they actually, from the way they did it is they started off first, as I said, about what's our vision, what's driving this at a high level, how is it going to look, and then they went down into more and more details within that. So one of the other things, though, in certain for certain organizations and certain type of work, what people will also want to do is they'll also want to start looking at how the to start looking at assessments and understanding how you can determine where you are from a specific perspective. Now, in the telecom world, they have a concept of the digital maturity model. And what this is a way for an organization to assess the level of maturity they have across different areas. So it could be at the customer level. And if we just kind of work down, or from a strategy, but if I jump down, for example, to their area related to data, they've set up this structure that talks about, from a data modeling point of view, where are you in this? Or, from, if we go to under data engineering, what's relevant, data value realization. And what becomes important is being able to tag these items. And what the platform will do is then kind of aggregate this information and be able to produce a summary across your organization around what's relevant and where are the areas, and kind of creating that kind of red, amber, green heat map that's relevant in order to know, one, where you are, and then also looking at where you need to go to as your kind of your as is and your to be. So this is something that we've just, it's given Phil and the guys in the Smart City Council an early release on that, to be able to use it and to be able to bring it for a test drive as part of the work that's ongoing with the SEC.
And Kevin, just so that all of you from the public sector that are here, we're talking about data sharing for mobility, but one of the big issues that we have to resolve is the relative data maturity of each organization. We have to look at people, process, and technology in each organization to understand whether, in fact, there is a capability of data sharing. And if so, at what level? And then what do we need to do across the board to help the regional data sharing in terms of capacity and capability? So what can we do to help in that regard? Because again, our sole purpose is to accelerate the project to everybody's benefit. So part of that sometimes is identifying the gaps and the needs and seeing how we can meet them. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys. Thank you all.
So I'm gonna take the screen now and show, where am I? Make sure I show the right thing. I think that's it. Yeah. Can you guys see now my screen with NC data sharing up in the left-hand corner?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So all of you will have access to this that are working on this project. And I have to already thank some people like Rick and Billy from Morrisville and Matthias from Cyrodiil, who's already helped me put some information in. But all of you will have access. And, you know, I have to say this, you're going to have write access. So, you know, there is the capacity for somebody to sort of destroy or impair the group's work. And so we're a little bit on a Scout's honor here that, you know, we're all here to help each other. And what I'm going to ask everybody at the beginning is to sort of focus on your area. So you'll notice we've identified Apex, Cary, Morrisville, Raleigh, TJ Cog, the 2 MPOs, NC DOT. Then we have our solution providers, Bridgestone, Azuga, SAS, LVX, Oracle, Bentley, Cyrodiil, Duke, Honeywell, Johnson, XQ, and Senate. And I'll just show you a little bit of what Matthias has done with Cyrodiil. And they were able to put in several videos so that those of you that are interested in what their product set is could look at these short videos and understand them, and that'll save us time when we get together in the workshop. But you'll also notice that there'll be the ability of any of you solution providers to go in and put, you know, what are the benefits of your products, or to identify your products. Now, from the standpoint of the public sector, I'll show you what Billy and Rick have done. And the first thing, and Amber, if you'll remember, you told me from last year's stormwater project, one of the things you didn't have was sort of a task list, but we have an embedded Kanban module. So what I've done with each of the cities is, or the public participants, is I've identified the first 2 tasks. And the first one is to list your mobility data sets that you have in your organization that possibly could be shared. The second one is to describe what problems you'd like to solve. And so if you go and look at what Billy and Rick have done, they've already listed, and all of you have this module already ready to go. They've already listed a number of their data sets that they have available that they could share, you know, depending on what the use cases and the projects are. So if we can get this from all the other public sector participants, this is going to help us figure out what's possible right now. What kinds of data should we share? The second thing that Rick and Billy did was they went in and listed, okay, so what would we like to know from this project? And here they say understanding the network impacts for specific projects and the ability to view traffic trends based on key events. So you'll notice that both of these are sort of limited needs. And this is the area that for all of our public participants, I really want you to be as imaginative as possible, because you know, one of the things about needs could be, yeah, we want to know when we're going to return to pre-COVID traffic levels, right? Now that's going to be more than just a data set. It's also going to be some benchmarking and some predictive analytics. But if somebody has that question, it's worth asking, and it's worth us considering as a group. So every one of our public participants have a place reserved for them. Every one of our solution providers at the council, the sponsors and partners, have a space too to put in information. Somebody just asked me, Tom, good question. Is it possible to use links to website, YouTube? It's exactly. That's what exactly. Let me show you what Matthias did, and then Kevin answered that. But just to go there, and you know, anybody who has questions through this process in the next week should just feel free to email me. But I'll just show you, for instance, like if you go here to what Matthias did, you'll notice that it's actually a linked video in YouTube. So you can do the same thing. And yeah, so that answers your question. Now, one of the things that I would like is we've tried to identify all the stakeholders, but if you see or understand that there's a stakeholder that's missing, let me know. If Mike Kilpatrick is on from Duke Sustainable Solutions, Mike, I wonder if we shouldn't have Duke Energy, the utility, in the room. Because I find that a lot of times people forget to bring the utility in, and then that's a key aspect of any kind of regional plan. So as you can see, I mean, Kevin showed you this in the other project, but this is how it's going to work in this project, where we'll be able to identify each of the stakeholders. You notice we've also added vehicle OEMs, vehicle users, vehicle fleet operators, vehicle owners. There'll be use cases there about those particular types of people. Products and services, I don't think I've done it full justice here. And I really would invite our solution partners that you can easily come in and add a different type of product or solution that you think would be applicable. You can put in, what it is. You can put a link into it, even if it's just proprietary to yourself. I mean, don't hesitate to do it, because right now we're in the discovery phase. The other thing I wanted to show you was, and again, Kevin said this is sort of like a table of contents, and in some ways it is. You could also see it as an index or appendix, because this is actually what we will do. And I really want everybody to understand this, is that we will probably break out sub-projects here. So, for instance, we may build a sub-project around electric vehicles, and we would actually then create a separate project workspace, and those that wanted to work in that particular workspace would participate there. So we can have sub-projects that we want to advance or accelerate. I'm going to come to ecosystem in a second, but I do want to show you that we're going to put in information about data security and data maturity and cybersecurity. And right now, my goal, the first thing in the morning on Thursday, is to talk about data maturity. Kurt Savoy from IDC, who was the former chief data officer for Boston, is going to join me in talking about data maturity. And I'm trying to recruit a couple of people to talk about regional cybersecurity. And if somebody has a suggested speaker, please let me know. We've been trying to reach out to, I think his name is Bruce Mann, the new cybersecurity lead for the state of North Carolina, but haven't been able to get through to him. So if anybody has access and we can bring them to the table, let us know. We're also trying to get a couple of other speakers. But what I do want to go quickly to is, you may ask this question, okay, the ecosystem section is all about the things that we're going to do together and that are sort of going to be a roll-up. So for instance, we'll collect user stories and we'll put them in. And I've created this one already about a vehicle user, okay? The one thing I didn't put in is, what do they need to do? And most of what they need to do is gather information in certain consumable ways. And we'll fill that out more. But there'll be a lot of use cases here that we all add. And if any of you think of a use case that you want to add, you should feel free to do so, because again, you have access, and you'll find that under the ecosystem and user stories. We are going to have a mission model canvas for the whole project. What are our partners, activities, value propositions? This will be some of what we do next Thursday. We'll try to roll this up. And again, remember, one of the nice things about this, especially those of you in the public sector, is that we can share this in a lot of different ways. So we can share a read-only version of it. And for instance, if you needed to show some higher up or city council or county council what you're doing, you could easily give them a read-only version of this. You just create a link, they get to see it. And so it really allows for good sharing in sort of the public domain. But you may want to ask, where are we going with this? And so what I want to show you is the roadmap for sharing mobility. And there's a module in here that's called City as a Platform. And pretty much, if you start in the top left cell and went all the way down to the very bottom right cell, that would tell you the journey that we're on, that the North Carolina Research Triangle region is on. And so it's simple things like gathering city requirements, identifying ecosystem, stakeholders, requirements, set up the platform. And we'll almost just follow this. Some of this will be done in tandem, but the idea was going to be across the board. How do we move forward on this? So if you're sitting there and you're going, well, where does this take us, right?
I was like,
Hello?
I don't want to break it to you, but I'm not actually in charge this week. This I can sign.
Oh, this one is just.
This one's just legitimately me.
Hello?
Way more fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody's not
I
muted.
think somebody
Okay.
muted themselves.
Yeah. Connie, just go, well, they're fine. Okay, we're good. So anyway, so what happens here is that the idea is this will take you through the kinds of steps that you would do. And what you can do is, it's really fun, the way this has been built, is if you go up on the 3 buttons and go explore this element, it will give you a graphic version of the element. So right now we're gathering city requirements from all of the different public sector entities. And the idea here is that it gives you a lot of different visual ways to understand what's happening. And really what it does is it leads to, as Kevin was saying, the structured collaboration. But from my way of looking at this, it really leads, a lot of these are thinking exercises. A lot of these are exercises around how do we move from A to Z? How do we get to the point where we can accelerate this project? What are the steps we need to take? And so it gives everybody a way of doing it. And I do want to just, if you keep going down, you'll see there's things about data analytics. There's even things about financing. What happens if you gather all this data and then you're looking for a revenue opportunity? There's also things about how do you provision the network? So how do you provide citywide sensor network, you know? And so you explore that element, and the question is, how do you go about doing it? Okay, so it gives you, and these graphics will populate as we put in more information. So believe it or not, that's it. We're at 33 minutes, respecting everybody's time. And for those of you that have access now, you know, the idea is going to be that you go in and see, especially from the public sector, if you can provide some of this information about your data sets and what you see as the goals or data needs for this project. And that's going to really save us a lot of time next Thursday. And then for those of you that are solution providers, if you can provide information like Matthias did for Ceradel, then what you're going to be able to do is people are going to say, oh, that's why you're here. Okay, you do this. And they're going to be able to understand how you can help them. I think everybody should feel free to go in and add use cases. You'll see some things here about goals and such. You should feel free to do that. If you have questions about data maturity or cybersecurity, I would ask that you email me if you have like the name of somebody or a module that we could use. We're actually right now going to use the TM Forum data maturity module. And Kurt and I are going to talk about that, Kurt Savoy, in the morning on Thursday. What I want to do is we'll have some introductory stuff. We'll get into data maturity, which is essential, as is cybersecurity for data sharing. And then we're going to quickly break down into different groups around both needs and use cases and data sets. And if anybody has suggestions about what they would like to see a breakout group for, they should let me know. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is that as of today, Tuesday, December 1st, we are on for next week. I want everybody to know that. But if for some reason, for health reasons or otherwise, we had to postpone the in-person, we will still come together and work. Now, we may not do the full 8 hours. We'll probably break it into 2-3 hour sessions. We'll use Zoom breakouts, and we'll use Smart City Activator here to do the work. So again, you're going to see one of the advantages of this platform is that we'll get the work done regardless as to whether we can meet in person or not. But it is really going to be up to you, the participants, to put your shoulder behind this and make it work. If you have any questions, ask me. And Rick, I know Rick Ralph, the CIO for Morrisville, and Billy Whitehead, the Smart City Director for Morrisville, are also going to be available. If you have any logistics questions, please feel free to ask Connie Heath at the council. So with that, are there any last questions before we sign off? I don't think so. So we've done this in 40 minutes, everybody. I hope this was useful. This will be recorded. We'll send out the recording to everybody in case you want to share it with other participants. So again, thank you very much for your time and have a great day. Take care.